All right. All right, everybody. Howdy, folks. We're live. We're live again. It's Thursday and time for another hour and a half of modeling fun here on Live Mic. Uh, First of all, as usual, we'll go into the poll results from the last poll. We asked what genre is the best genre for beginners to enter into for their first kit. And we have four choices: aircraft, cars, armor, and ships. Aircraft and cars tied for first with 36%. Armor close second with 27%. And no love for ships. They ended up with zilch. So let's get into today's topic, shall we? And today we're answering the big question every beginner scale modeler asks: are acrylics better than enamels? We'll compare them, talk about pros and cons, and hear from you in the live chat. And a brief reminder for y'all: we are talking about what's best for beginners, not necessarily for you guys or myself. So let's set the stage here. Why is paint choice one of the first hurdles beginners face? Well, there's so many of them. Uh, they don't know the pros and cons of each one, or the budget ramifications, or the cleanup and everything. So it is a tough choice. And as I said, there's budget concerns. There's a learning curve to each one. Cleanup is different. Moosey wants down. There you go, buddy. And availability is also one of the factors. So let's talk about the pros and cons of acrylics for beginners. The pros: it's fast drying, uses water cleanup, there's less odor, and it's easier for small spaces. The cons for acrylics: they can dry too fast. They're, they leave brush marks sometimes if you do it wrong. And there's adhesion issues if you don't use primer. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of enamels. The pros: it has a durable finish, there's smooth leveling, and it's easier for brush painting. The cons: well, there is a strong odor, there's a lot more drying time, and you have to use solvents to clean it. And they are widely available though. You have Testers, Humbrol, Revell, other types of enamels. And the costs for a beginner: acrylics usually cost less. I did a video a while back where I compared acrylics to enamels, and I found that per ounce acrylics and per bottle acrylics do cost less, and they are a longer term value. And acrylics, my opinion, are also best for those on a budget because they do cost less, and on a tight workspace because of one factor: you don't have to store all those solvent based thinners. All you need is water or IPA. That's it. So let's go to the live chat. That was kind of a quick spiel this week. Michael Lambertino, how you doing, Michael? Whoops, see, I pressed the button where I shouldn't have. Stephen Kessel, model on. Michael says, Moosey. Moosey says hi to everybody. Good evening, John. It's the star of the show, you bet. Michael says, I guess acrylic, but I prefer lacquers and enamels. But you did. It's not about you and me. This is about beginners. What do you think is better for beginners? John says, wouldn't touch enamel paint with the barge pole, never mind the paintbrush. Okay. So what do you think is best for beginners, people? This is about beginners. Get yourselves out of it. Hey, Chet, what's happening? Michael says also cons with enamel is if not applied correctly, it can cover up slot of detail. Oh, okay. A lot of detail. Yes. Oh, I said acrylics. Okay. Mike said acrylics. Okay. Michael said I said acrylics. Well, you did say acrylics, but you also said you prefer enamels. Well, this is about what's best for beginners, not what you prefer. Jan says acrylics all the way. Maybe not how they paint, but all other factors: availability, cleaning, drying time, due to okay. Michael says for beginners, acrylics. Thank you. Jan says don't even know where to get enamels. Yeah, that's availability for enamels anymore. It's kind of hard. John says beginners would be best using acrylics for the ease of use. I agree. Jan says hello, hello. And Chet says price wise, acrylics are cheaper. Enamels and lacquers lay down better with a brush. True. For airbrushing, I would say lacquers just as for just cleaning the brush, as acrylics get too much tip dry. Michael says, Hobby Lobby, you can get enamel. Very true. And Chet, again, what do you think is best for beginners? That is what this discussion is about. What's best for beginners? Chet says acrylics also clog the brush. Yeah, sometimes you do have to keep up with it on the cleanup. I mean, yeah, that is very true. That is very true. Uh, yeah, if I don't, I can tell you if I don't keep IPA in my airbrushes, they do clog every time. And I don't have to totally take them apart. I just take off the, nozzle and clean that out and take the needle and push it out and in, sort of get everything out of there, and boom, it's usually back good as new. Jan says acrylics are best. They teach you how to thin and brush control, hairy stick and airbrush. Very true. Very true on acrylics. I I mean, you've all heard me say it before. Uh, I've used acrylics from the start, but I used them because basically they were cheaper. For number one, and number two, that's first thing was all I could find, and then it turned out they were pretty easy to use, and I never stopped using them. John says newer acrylics are now much better for airbrushing. I use ICM and their thinners and do not have any problem with tip dry. Hmm. Yeah, I haven't used the ICMs yet. I gotta try some of those. I have to try some of those. Maybe get me a pack or something for Christmas or my birthday next year or something. That sounds like an idea. Okay, here's a new question. Let's see, where is it? What was the first paint type you tried when you started out? Next question. The next question. What was the first paint type you tried when starting out? Jan said Revell acrylics are probably in every store where they sell modeling stuff. Enamels are long gone. Revell acrylics are great for the hairy stick. Hmm, interesting. John says, I like them so much, I bought the full set. I was thinking about that last year for Christmas, and I told you the guys this before a couple of times, but I'll tell you it again. I was gonna buy it full set last year for Christmas, and I went to, I think it was Amazon. They had it for $100 American, and but I didn't have the money then. I was gonna set back $100 of my next disability check to order it. Next disability check comes in, I go to Amazon right away. They raised it to $120. I said, "Screw you." Chet says all the Revel paints, yeah, all the Revel, yeah, okay. All the Revel paints I have are enamels. Recently got them from Hobby Link. Yeah, I don't. The only enamel stuff I have are Sharpie pens. Jan says paint type Revell acrylics, Vallejo Model Air, currently anything thinnable with self leveling thinners from Gunzy. Hmm, okay. John says my first paints were Tamiya. Chet says Hobby Link are better pricing than Amazon. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Because my first set of paints, except for maybe about 10 bottles, are starting to go low. And the thing is, they don't. I went on back on Amazon and they don't sell the individual bottles anymore. I got to buy a whole nother set. So why not go buy some ICM or something like that? Chet says my first paints were Testers enamel, but I'm 58 and that was in the 70s. True. Yeah, and that was back when the enamel was the only thing you could get too. There was no such thing as acrylic back then, which was a big pain in the ass for all our moms. Once we were done with the kitchen table. At least for my mom, it was. Oh, poor mom. Yeah. Jan says, Mom wouldn't let me paint my kids. Gee, Jan, I wonder why. If you were anything like me, I wonder why. I was a pig when I painted. I let's just say little paint got on my model. More of it got on me and the table than got on the model. Chet says, I keep knocking over the tiny square bottles. Yes, yes, I remember that. Tester's bottles, oh God. Just hear that bottle hitting the table, and my mom goes, My God! And I'm pretty much dead. Because then we had to sit there and clean it up with not IPA. It was acetone, gasoline, all that good stuff on varnish, on a varnished table. Oh, God. Chet says, for brush painting, I have Vallejo, Tamiya, Revell testers, and some AK. And that's a nice variety. John says availability of paint in different countries may also have a bearing on what you buy. For example, Canada has strict laws on some paints. Yeah, yeah. John says what are best paint bottles, dropper or Tamiya 10 milliliter, 16 milliliter? I prefer dropper bottles. Uh, get lot better control on mixing that way. You can do, you know, so many drops of paint, so many drops of thinner, mix it up, and that way if you don't like your consistency, either add drops of thinner or drops of paint. You just don't need to just drop paint bottles. And you know that way you don't have to waste a dropper either. Because those disposable droppers, you know, I like to use them for a while before I change them, keep them clean. Chet says for airbrushing, I use Createx, Scale Finishes, Topical Glitz, and Gallery. Just sent me some of their Kaleido line for testing and review. Tell me, Chet, have you tested them yet, or are you going to do that in a video? I would love to. I would love to know that, so I can check that video out. Because I'm really wondering what people think of that gallery line. Because I might have told you guys, I'm thinking about teaming up with Gallery. They offered me in the summertime, but I didn't think I was far enough along yet on this channel. But now I believe so. I believe I'm seriously thinking about teaming up with them. John says Tamaya bottles easy to thin when new, just top bottle up and just top bottle up to top and you're ready to go. Dropper bottles need some experimenting with when starting a hobby. Yeah, true. True. Chet says, I just sprayed a couple of spoons and seats today, but we'll do a review on my channel. What'd you think of them? Or do you not want to say till you get that review on your channel? I have only tried two colors so far. The blue laid down real nice. I mean, I've heard from a couple people on them that they do work pretty well. I've only heard good about them. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Nothing but good things. The Aussie Nurse Flipper, you found it, buddy. Morning all. I think rattle cans are best way for beginners. Okay, well, rattle cans. The question is though, acrylic or enamel? You think acrylic is better or enamel? And I'm glad you found the live stream, my friend. And welcome, welcome. Got a good chat going. Good chat, good chat, good chat. Chet says, I have been working on 3 models simultaneously right now, so have been busy airbrushing the past few days. I bet. Speaking of working on models, I bought this over to show you. I'm probably 5 pieces short of finishing this sucker. This is my paper Mariarctica shipping ship or cargo ship, I guess. I need about 5 more of these little suckers. I'm going to put one there and one on each side of these two, and it'll be done. Put a flag up there. It's going on top of the. It's going to go on top of the fridge. So that's what's. I'm about ready to finish that, and I'm going to go on to the Bristol Bulldog. Jan says, rattle cans, I can never get okay results. Depends on model size, I think. Yeah, the only rattle cans I use are primers. They just seem to go all over my booth, where airbrushes just have a nice small pattern. And rattle cans, if you got to get that nozzle down same amount every time, or else you're gonna have little spots where it's just drenched on there, and I don't like that. Dang, guys, we're almost done with our first half hour. Wow. John says, used a rattle can once. It was a total disaster. Yeah, they take a little uh, getting used to. I mean, it's not like a. I think they're a little more touchy than airbrushes, and it does take a. They are different than airbrushes. I don't care what anybody says. Chet says for a beginner, rattle cans are probably better for a beginner, so they don't invest the money for airbrush. That's a good way to look at it. But if they continue in the hobby, rattle cans suck much better control. Rattle cans suck much better control with airbrush. Okay. Chet says airbrush bigger investment. Yeah, Chet, but airbrush is usually a one-time investment too. It's not like you're where rattle cans, you're just constantly buying rattle cans, you know. Michael Lambertino says if you use a rattle can, always put the hottest water in a pan heat up for 10 minutes, then shake really good. The spray will come out and the flow better. Yeah, but if you use an airbrush, you just mix the paint and you go to town. You don't have to wait 10 minutes for in hot water for it to heat up. Jan says for beginners, a hairy stick is best. I agree. Michael says there's nothing like airbrushes. True. Oh, I love my airbrushes. Yeah, I love my airbrushes. I mean, if I had to sit there and paint like a whole 1/48 scale plane with the hairy stick, oh my god. Today. Let's see here. John says, use rattle cans for large areas like my diorama, only would not use them on a model. True. Michael says, I'm just saying if the person doesn't have an airbrush to heat up the cans. True. True. Yeah, if you don't have an airbrush and you're using rattle cans, definitely heat them up. I agree. Bill Chet says after the initial investment, overall you get more paint per dollar from airbrush paints than rattle can. True. Again, true. The Aussie Nurse Flipper. Rattle can, you can decant them and use them in the airbrush. I buy half used ones off FBM, very cheap. Well, yeah, that's true too. You can decant them. If you have the time. Me myself, I don't really have the time. I if I'm not, you know, taking care of Moosey or running a house or building on the bench, I'm running the channel. So I don't really have the time to sit there and decant rattle cans. Let's see. John says if decant them, you have to let them gas off first if storing them in bottles. True. Gotta get rid of that repellent shit. Absolutely. I noticed something. I don't trust this viewer counter here because it was showing nobody watching, but the chat was going. I mean, I know there's a delay there, but still, if nobody's watching, how the hell is the chat working? John says, or you will have abstract art over your wall. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. Now, here's a question for y'all. Chet says, I did use a rattle can today. I have a can of Krylon Fusion Black textured paint. It looks good in a drag car for rubber flooring. Yes, very true. And I've seen some of your builds, Chet. Those are very good. Here's a question for y'all, and I know we haven't really hit on enamels very much because y'all are fans of acrylics, it sounds like. But do you think the durability of enamels is worth the extra hassle? There's a question for you. Do you think the durability of enamels is worth the extra hassle? I don't. I don't, and either price or other things, you know. Take 30 seconds or a minute or maybe 2 minutes and spray that bad boy down with some primer. Then using acrylic, you get the same thing. Billboards, Chet says yes. You think it's worth the hassle? I don't think it is. I'm one of them guys that when I came back to the hobby, I started on acrylics and I stayed with acrylics and I'll be acrylics forever. Jan says enamels only if you use a hairy stick. For airbrush, lacquers every time. Yeah. Lacquers are close to lacquers. You still need extra stuff to clean up and yeah. Okay, Jan. Chet says scale finishes, gloss enamels lay down great and dry fairly quickly. Chet says MCW paints are also great. Never used them. So Chet says they both have the best engine colors. Okay. And Jan says, for me, that is Revell cleaner is great for cleaner. Okay. But Jan, you seem to be a enamel fan. If you prefer enamels, convince me why it beats acrylics. Jan says, don't know the brand, Billboard. And John says, enamel paints only dry fast if you got 2 days to wait. True. Yeah, Jan, convince me that enamels are better than acrylics, or why it beats acrylics. Convince me. Chet says, which brand? And I believe that's to you, Jan. Lucy's curled up asleep. Oh, here we go. Moosey. Enamels are more durable. Nice shine without clear coat, Chet says. Jan says MCW scale finishes. John says not heard of MCW. I haven't heard of them either. Moosey enough, buddy. So, Chet, where do you buy MCW at? Yes, buddy. Yes, buddy. Michael says, oh, yes, ice finishes great paint. Oh, okay. MCW finishes. Okay. Chet says, buy them from MCW Finishes online. Okay, they got their own website then. Cool. Michael says, website. Jan says I'll check them out if I can find them. Yeah, I'll give them a good look see after the live stream's over, maybe after dinner. Well, this seems like a good time for that mid-stream update on what's coming up on the channel. Tomorrow at 8:30, don't have a video with any legs this week. So tomorrow at 8:30, let's see here. Chet says MCW finishes and scale finishes are automotive paints. They both have engine paints, automotive paints, race cream colors, movie and TV cars. Scale finishes also carry House of Colors. Wow. John says found them, but would cost way too much for me to have them shipped over. That's a good consideration, John. You guys over in Europe and across the pond will probably have to spend more. As I was saying, tomorrow 8:30, my next video drops, and it's about Metal Earth kits. Are they worth it? Blah blah blah, and all that. Tuesday, there's a video on organizing your workbench on the cheap that will drop. And next Friday, we begin the next build series, which will be, as I stated last week, this. This is the Hasegawa Mitsubishi A6M2A0 fighter. And that will be coming up next Friday, the review of the kit. And the Tuesday after that, the build will start. Chet says, MCW, you need to mix the enamels with Gardner and thinners. Scale finishes are ready to spray bottles from the bottle to the model. At scale finishes, you can use billboards 10 for 10% off. Okay. Jan says, what scheme? John says, looking forward to seeing that build. What scheme, Jan? I haven't decided that yet. They got 3 different marking schemes for it. I'll let you know. Chet says, Hardner, not Gardner. Autocorrect sucks, doesn't it, though? The Aussie Nurse Flipper says, I found a good use for my food dehydrator. Dries enamel paint pretty quickly. I heard that. I've heard it from more than one person. But you can't use one of those food dehydrators with the trays. You gotta, can you? John says, I will probably be still doing my track links by Friday. Oh, you're doing tracks. I'm sorry. Yeah. Tracks can be a pain in the ass sometimes. Very definitely. Michael says, remove the trays. Yeah, on mine that won't work. Well, I don't know. I gotta check the lid. I don't think it'll work on mine because I don't think the lid's that tall. Chet says, I need to find an inexpensive, good 1/35th scale Sherman tank. Check eBay or Amazon, Chet. John Christmas, cut and clean nearly 600 parts. Oh, what a joy. Oh, man. Yeah. Oh. I could fit at least 8 car bodies in mine. Maya do a decent Sherman. Yes, they do. John, was it your post on Facebook that you asked whether it was something or hell, and I said it was you're in the middle of downtown hell? John says, mine is the border model Sherman. Yep, that was mine. Yeah. 600 parts. God, yeah, welcome to downtown hell. Beautiful downtown hell. Okay, Chet says, I plan to make a Panther Pink Pro Street Sherman tank to piss off the armor rivet counters. There you go. I'd like a full report on how that turned out. Oh, hell yeah. Anything to piss off a rivet counter, I'm all for it, Chet. Gotta love them rivet counters. God bless them. Assholes. Oh, wow. Another great live stream, guys. Another great live stream, I think. Excellent. John says, use the Tamiya one. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for asking, Michael. I feel a lot better afterwards. I used to have a pain right down around there. They went in and they found 3 polyps. One was 10 millimeter, one was 12 millimeter, one was 7 millimeter. And they took them all out, and that pain's gone. So they're out getting biopsied right now. I'll find out on the 23rd whether they were precancerous or not. But I tell you what, I feel a hell of a lot better now. The only weird thing, Michael, was when I got home that day, I took Moosey out to do his thing on the lawn, and my right knee, which is the replaced one, just buckled on me out of the blue. It was weird, and there was so much pain in that knee, and it was absolutely weird, you know? But yeah, it went well. It went well. And feeling muchly better afterwards. Thank you for asking. John says, use the Tamayo, one reasonable, cheap, and easy to put together. Oh, the Sherman. Okay. Yeah. Chet says, I'm figuring 135th scale will be big enough to fit a 125th chassis, or at least the wheel tubs inside the track. Should be. I mean, 135th scale tank, 125th scale car is pretty much this about the same size. So, yeah. John says, good to hear you feeling better. Thank you, my friend. Aussie Nurse Flipper, you should do poll asking the question acrylic versus enamel for beginners. Do a poll after every live stream. Aussie, I do a poll covering the subject that we discussed that day. So stay tuned. I do that every week after every live stream. Jan says, I'm off. Sorry, tablet's down to 5% power. See you next week. Okay, Jan. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. Go Colts. Like you really care about American football. All right. No problem, Jan. See you next week. Yeah, I'll see. I do that poll after every live stream, and I'll leave it up till the night before the next live stream. So you have a week to vote on it. Go Giants. They play tonight, Chet. They play tonight. I believe they play Philly. Am I correct on that? And if so, where is it at? I believe it's at MetLife, I believe. I know I'm not gonna finish this thing tonight because I'll be in front of the TV. Michael says, yes, in my. Okay. Red Scale Scrapyard. How is everyone this afternoon? Everyone's fine. Bernard Dye, how you doing, buddy? Wow, newbies. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, okay, it's in New York. Okay, cool. Play the Beagles tonight. It's in Jersey. Jersey. Beagles. Red. Chet said, Red, live long and prosper. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I might as well ask you guys. Subject is okay. Okay, Chet. Let's be specific. uh, to Bernard and Red. Here's the question we're discussing, sort of off and on today. This is speaking for beginners, okay? For beginners, not for you and me, for beginners. What is better for beginner scale modelers, acrylic paints or enamel paints? What say you? This is for beginners, not for experience, not what you prefer. What do you think is best for beginners? So, Chet, I think I know the question to this answer. The Giants haven't played in New York since Giants Stadium opened. Okay, yeah. Red says, I want another one of the AMTTs in the green striped box and the black plastic 32 Tudor and gift shop box with a bid so low the shipping costs more. Bernard says, for beginners, I have to say acrylics. Knowing the mistakes I made when I was starting, I think the non toxic nature of acrylics and easier cleanup with water gives them the edge. I agree. Aussie Nurse Flipper, rental can enamel. Rattle can. Red says acrylics are more forgiving for noobs. True. I said this at the start. I'll say it again. I started with acrylics when I came back to the hobby. I've kept with acrylics basically because I'm working in an apartment complex, and I'm staying with them. Red says I prefer lacquers and enamels, though. Okay. I'll give you the I'll give you the same challenge I gave to Jan before. Chet says acrylics can clean up easier when you screw it up. So, Red, if you're a lacquer and enamel guy, okay, here's a challenge for you. Convince me why it beats acrylics. Because I'm an acrylics guy. I've always been an acrylics guy. I'll always be an acrylics guy. Red says, I shoot a lot of nail polish. Never done that before. I guess that is a type of paint, though. Bernard says, when I was modeling, I was like you said in an earlier video about those testers enamels. That was all we had. Yep. No, back when I was modeling in my younger days, that's all we had. Aussie says nail polish is good for cars, cheap and good color range. One bottle, you can paint a car. Red says try finding acrylics with those sorts of colors. True. Red also says I miss Model Master paints. Yeah, they did go by the wayside, didn't they? Aussie says, you bet me, Red. Okay. I mean, don't get me wrong, folks. Enamels have their place, but I just don't use them. Red says Rust-Oleum didn't see the value in keeping Model Master going. Yeah, okay, I remember that. Yeah. Moosey. What's wrong, buddy? Take it easy. Man, already past the hour mark. These live streams are starting to just fly by. Bernard says, my understanding is that acrylics have improved a lot and continue to get better. Yes, they have, and yes, they are. Red says, no more Aztec airbrushes either. Never heard of Aztec. But I do love my galleries. Do love my galleries. I ain't going to anything else. John says, I'll stick with my Iwata. Yeah, there you go. I can't afford an Iwata. I bet I could, but Aussie Nurse Flipper says you should do a video about cheap versus expensive acrylic paints. I've thought about that, Aussie. I actually have. And I might just, you might find that on the channel here, but not anytime real soon because I got 2 videos left to do on the works, and then I got my next build series, so it might come up after that. Red says Aztec was a pretty cool unit at the time because it was impervious to solvents. I never cleaned it, just stored it in a jar full of lacquer thinner. Wow. So a very hardy airbrush. Had a little backbone to it. That's what I like about my galleries. They're cheaper, but they have some backbone to them. Red Scale Scrapyard says the needle and the head were made as one piece. You swap the head out to get different patterns and sizes. Wow, that's interesting. Wow. I bet that costs a pretty penny, though. Because said in your prior comment it was a pretty cool unit at the time, which makes me think it was back in the day a bit. And yeah, airbrushes were expensive back in the day. When I bought mine back in the day, I quit using my Badger 150. Damn. Back in the day, any airbrush was expensive. Oh, yeah. In the 70s, Badger made a cheap airbrush that used to compress stair can. I remember those. I tried to use one of those compressed air can ones back in the 90s when I built last, and it was, oh God, it was terrible. It was terrible. Is that the external mix one? Ah, those were good for primary, he says. Wow. Red says they almost put as much out as a spray can. And I'll bet they're a lot more controllable too. Red, aren't they? Get a lot more control with them. Yep, he says. That's why I prefer airbrush over spray can. Far better control. The Aussie Nurse Flipper says I probably still get one of those compressed can airbrushes somewhere. My friend just used a car tire. Wow. Well, I guess that'd work. I mean, how does he control the air pressure? That's what I'm wondering. Red scales. Red says, I'm sure Harbor Freight has them. Oh, yeah, Harbor Freight has everything. Bernard says, I still have a bunch of those testers enamels, and I still use them for details, small parts, or when I have the color in acrylic. The metallic ones are 10 years old and still work pretty well. John says, I have heard about using car tire before. But my question is, how do you control the air pressure? I guess you can have one of those inline controls or use a Red says Badger 250, approximately $25. Tire was a big thing back in the 90s. Aussie says. Bernard says, sorry, he meant I use the enamels when I don't have the color in acrylic. Okay. I sort of figured that. Yeah, inline. Okay. Red says that's the external mix spray gun. Okay. Badger 250 for $25. Well, Chet says you can run an airbrush off an air compressor on a truck, but you would need to have a filter for oil contamination. Yeah. Red says, personally, I use the regulator on my compressor. So do I. Yeah, but I was asking how you control the air pressure if you're using a tire. And in line, you'd probably have to have a valve for it, an inline valve. Damn, folks, we're coming up on an hour and 10 minutes already. We only have 20 minutes left in the live stream. I cannot believe that. Wow. Time flies when you're having a good conversation with friends. You know that? Aussie says you can pump the tire up to the pressure you want, usually a car tire 30 psi. Yeah, Aussie, but okay, so like I use clear shine, which is like a floor polish for my clear coat, and I don't need a 30 psi, and I can use it like 10 or less. How do you get it to there? Probably you need an inline valve for that. 30 would be way too much pressure. Red Scale Scrapyard, I never seen one of the tire adapters. Maybe there's a set screw to limit the airflow. Yeah, or use airbrush with Mac valve maybe. I'll see nurse flipper. There is. Okay. All right. There we go. Chet says if you're going to pump up the tire, why not just use the compressor the tire is being filled with? Just ain't true. John says, I'm at, try again, John. third time's a charm. Aussie says, I might used to use a hand pump for back in the day. Yeah, that sounded like a lot of work. Use a hand pump going, or you can flip a switch. Red says you can pump up the tire at the gas station and bring it home. True. Just one problem with that. I haven't seen a gas station yet that don't charge for air anymore. They're charging for air, something we breathe. Bernard says I mix in spray cans for some work as a time saver, but I don't like that. Half the pan of spray ends up in the booth's filter since you can't control and direct the flow as well. Yeah. I that's one reason I don't like spray cans and only use them for primer. Oh, my spray booth is a mess, and I had to change my filter because of spray cans. Aussie says, yeah, but the car tire lasts a couple of hours. Red says, air and water ought to be free and required. It is a safety issue after all. True. Yeah, it's a safety issue. We require air, we require water. As they said in the Star Trek episode one time, we are ugly bags of mostly water. So we need water. And we breathe air. So why are you charging us for it? Red says underinflated tires can flip a car. Yes, they can. They can also ruin a rim, too. If they get very underinflated. Chet says there is a kit to convert a propane tank to hold compressed air. Wow. I'm sure you'd have to clean that tank out first. Or I don't know. Leave something open in it and let all the residual propane evaporate. That'd be one hell of a compressor. Aussie says, I seen homemade air compressor using a gas tank and a fridge compressor. The advantage is they are very quiet. Yeah, I bet they are. And again, you want to get that residual gas out of there. Red says, I've seen those. Chet says, windshield wipers are a safety issue as well, but not free. True. So are tires, but they sure as hell ain't free, or brakes. Red says, I saw one made from a car AC compressor. Red says, but water in the squeegee is. Yeah. Go figure, right? Go figure. Although, Red, there are some enterprising gas station owners that will not let you use water in a squeegee unless you buy something. Damn, we're coming up on only 10 minutes left. Okay, Red and Bernard. The other guys know this, and Aussie also. The other guys know this, but I'm going to let you know. At about 5 till 5 this time, my time, which is about 7 or 8 minutes from now, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and start the conclusion of this, which is letting you know what's coming up on the channel and, you know, and basically concluding everything. So that'll happen here in about 7 minutes. But you guys can keep chatting until I press the end stream button. I just won't respond. The Aussie Nurse Flipper says Costco Servo here don't have water and squeegee or air pump. Wow. Yeah, around here, if you want to pump up all four tires, you're going to spend at least $1. Water and a squeegee, it depends. Some places you're going to have to buy gas. Some places you can just go in and use it. Yeah, it ain't the good old days. Good old days are gone. Chet says a lot of time the water with the squeegee is nasty and you can make the windshield dirtier than when you start. Very true. Very true. They don't, no, I haven't seen a gas station yet that cleans their squeegee water nearly enough. Aussie says the girl uses wash The girl use wash your wash screen and change your oil for you. Huh? I don't understand. The girl use wash your wash screen and change what? The girl use wash your wash screen and change your oil for you. Is that like the back in the day the girl pumping the gas used to wash your windscreen? Okay, there you go. That makes sense. True, very true. Bernard says, speaking of paints, have any of you ever bought used paints? I see them occasionally on Farcebook Marketplace and eBay. Fleabay. Okay. Uh, no, I've never bought used paints. I will never will. I don't trust. Mm-mm. No, too easy to get taken. Too easy to get taken on that. Aussie says, I buy used paints all the time. You can always check before you buy, and big saving. Yeah, I just, I'm too cautious on paints. There's, oh, yeah, true. When people die, their family sells all their stuff very cheap. Very true. But if that's the case, I'd rather go straight to like an estate sale and see the stuff. You know, because anybody could sit there and type on eBay, so and so died. Here's all his stuff, and you know, misrepresent everything. Bernard says buying used paints can be a bit risky. I bought a small paint stash. A couple of the spray cans were old and didn't work, but the testers and enamels in that bundle just kept on trucking. Yeah. Chet says in the States it's typically not a girl pumping gas, and if it was you, and if it was, you wouldn't want to look at her anyway. True, true. Aussie says when you're getting a couple $100 worth of paints for like $10, well, eBay you got a guarantee. Well, yeah, yeah. I still don't trust it though. Still, I'm very, very cautious when it comes to eBay. I mean, every bit of my stash, I'll tell you this much, every bit of my stash in there, which is like close to 50 kits, I bought on either eBay or Amazon. And only once or twice I got taken because there are certain things you gotta look for. I made a video back my first 3 months of the channel starting. I made a video on what to look for eBay to keep from getting scammed. And that's why I don't go for paints on them. There's too many ways to get around my way of keeping from getting scammed on it. Chet says Tester's enamel lasts forever. Takes as long to dry. Yes, it does. Well, that's one of the cons of enamel paints. It does take them a long time to dry. Bernard says, LOL. Yes, agreed. Aussie says, I only buy kits from FBM and only if the bags are sealed. Farcebook Marketplace. Yeah, that's one thing you gotta make sure those bags are sealed. But I still got taken my last build series was from a kit out of my stash that I bought on eBay, and I got taken on that a little bit because the bag was sealed, but when I built the kit, there were like at least six parts missing from it. It was a Corvette ZR1 AMT, and yeah, I wasn't happy with it. Wasn't happy. All right, we have 3 minutes left, so I'm gonna start putting a bow on this thing, folks. So let me conclude this whole thing. Acrylics are often easier for beginners, but enamels still have their place. Now, here would be my recommendation. Acrylics are great for first timers, and enamels are great for those with patience and ventilation. And for those of you watching on replay, let me know in the comments, do you like acrylics or enamels? So I'd like to thank y'all for participating today. It's been a great live chat. Don't forget, if you haven't yet, like and subscribe to the channel, and you'll see more of these live streams and more videos like the ones I'm going to say now. Tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, will be the Metal Earth video. Are they worth it? Tuesday at 8:30 will be organizing your workbench on a budget. And then next Friday will be the review of the Japanese Zero kit from Hasegawa, and that'll start off the build series for that. Don't forget, if you haven't joined it yet, join the Frugal Scale Modeler group on Facebook. Just go to the page, go to any of my latest videos to the description. You'll find a link on them, and go to the Facebook group page, answer 3 questions, and agree to the rules. I'll look them over, and as soon as I look them over, I'll send you a message that says welcome, and you can start posting. So don't forget the Frugal Scale Modeler group. So basically, that's all I've got, folks. So I'll see you next week. Moosey, calm down. I'll see you all next week, and you all know what we say around here. Never stop pushing your modeling boundaries. Until tomorrow morning at 8:30 for my next video. Bye-bye.